যদি সবাই ফিরে যায়, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায়, যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায়, তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। যদি আলো না ধরে, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে, যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে, তবে বজ্রানলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে।
Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream, and we have back with us for the very second time AcademicMan. Hello AcademicMan, thank you for joining our podcast.
Hi.
So today it's going to be an audience interaction live stream with AcademicMan. The members of the channel will be given priority from the live chat. And I have another announcement to make. The song that I have been talking about for the last about almost 1 year, the Kalbhairavashtakam, my version, with a significant storyline and stuff, for which we will do crowdfunding. The song arrangement is done. I just ended it half an hour back. There are still the rap portions to be recorded, but the other vocals and music arrangement is done. So we will begin the crowdfunding for that video. And so I'm just letting you all know so that you all can have some savings at your disposal to spend on my project. So thank you, AcademicMan. And today we are going to discuss the movie Sinners, and then we will get into other discussions and audience interactions. So why did you want to talk about the movie Sinners, AcademicMan?
Oh, it's a pretty good, well-made movie, but more than just being a well-made movie, it's actually a very anti-Christian movie. That
I see.
One of the most anti-Christian movies I've seen in a while, and I've seen Conclave, and Conclave is also pretty anti-Christian. The thing about Sinners is that it presents the point of view of these the Ryan Coogler and the whole thing in through a kind of lens of decoloniality, if you think about it. Okay.
I see.
So that's how it's quite relevant to the Indic movement in that sense. Like in a way, if you think about it, social justice is not totally against the Hindutva movement or Indic movement. Okay. And that's what I've been thinking about for a while, that if you think about it, it's not the conservative movements around the world that actually has much in common with Hindutva or decoloniality in the Indic sense, basically. Even what J.S.I. Deepak is talking about, all that's actually closer to the more social justice movements that are in the West. Okay. And from that perspective, I believe that you all should watch, if you can, if you are a supporter of decoloniality and against colonization by certain kind of ideas and stuff, then I think you will enjoy Sinners, because the references are pretty on your face. That's the good thing. Like sometimes you don't even have to make it like allegorical, like Christopher Nolan did, right? Like Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy was essentially an anti-communist trilogy. But it was very allegorical, right? Batman represented order, Joker and Bane represented chaos and anarchy and urban terrorism and all that. Here it's not even like here it's almost on your face. But even then, I will say that it's well made. Like it's a relatable movie. It's about actually fighting a kind of oppression that we are familiar with, and in a better format. And it's a vampire movie, so even there, it's entertaining in that sense, right? So I absolutely loved it. And jahan pe, you're getting RRR and all that stuff in India, people should all the more encourage these movies and encourage people to watch these movies. So
Now, could you tell us a bit of the story?
yeah, so there are these two twin brothers, Stack and something else. Stack and Smoke. Yeah. So Stack and Smoke, they are basically criminals. They work for Al Capone and all that. So this is 1930s. This is segregated America. This is like Deep South, where the blacks aren't supposed to mingle with whites, and vice versa. And they have their different racial laws in America, where a black person cannot not just marry, cannot get a job in certain places, cannot sit in a certain part of the bus, cannot sit in a certain part of the restaurant, this kind of thing, can't go to certain schools. So this is segregated America, and there they are trying to do business basically these days, and they are opening up a kind of club, jazz blues club kind of. And this club, this gets attacked by vampires who are basically white. Okay. And in a sense, I also felt it's very interesting that the vampires actually represented a very liberal spectrum in a funny way. Like, the vampires aren't conservatives. Okay. The vampires are actually talking about equality and stuff. Okay. They're saying vampire banja equal and all that stuff.
So they are basically white liberals.
They are white liberals. Matlab, leadership will be in their hands, but you can join them and you'll feel good about it. That kind of thing. So
where have we heard that before?
I guess you hear that in India by other white people in India who pretend to be Janeudhari Brahmins. But the point is that it's relatively nuanced in that sense. So there is the Ku Klux Klan, which is the extreme right, if you might say, like the people who burnt alive black people and stuff. So that part is there. But what I really like is the vampires aren't conservative. The vampires are actually liberals. So Bobby, it's funny that in that sense. Polymerist, race bait trash. I agree, race baiting hai and all that. But do you not think that what we are trying to do in trying to decolonize Indic thought, we are also trying to kind of get rid of some racist thoughts about India in that sense. Like, India means caste, India means snake charmers, India means I don't know, sati pratha and all that. It's similar. It's, if not exactly the same, it's quite similar to what black people in the US were subjected to, stereotypes and all that. And they accepted the stereotypes because they were, they had to. And in India also, a lot of people, we accept the stereotypes that were imposed on us. And that's the whole problem. Unless you get rid of those stereotypes from your own mind, till then you can't go forward in with confidence.
Yeah. And many people don't know, people, especially Indians who have not read Thomas Sowell, that they even capitalized on their stereotypes. The black culture, the black lingo, the black lifestyle that we have come to know these days is essentially the culture of the southern sections, parts of USA. Even white people used to live the same way and even spoke English the same way. Their families were as broken as today's black families. Because that's where the white people who settled in the southern parts of USA came from a very specific part of England and Ireland, who had the same lifestyles even back there. So it was not really American black culture. It was just the culture of Alabama and stuff. Now, when when they come to the forefront, when their lifestyle, when their culture, their worldview comes to the forefront, they get criticized because they are the uneducated poor people of the country and also racist. Therefore, they face the brunt of educated white people. But the blacks do not. The blacks are told that, yeah, it's okay, that's your culture and you keep up with it. And that's then glorified into hip hop. But it was never American black culture to begin with. It was just Southern USA culture. Now, my question, my first reaction to this is kind of on the lines of polymerists' concerns only, that we have seen many anti-Christian or anti-Christian people or even anti-Christianity movies from Hollywood for many decades, right? There have been no dearth of such movies. Since they are usually made by, again, white liberals or commies and stuff, they are copied in India, and therefore it's a similar kind of mindset that makes anti-Hindu movies in India. There, what do we do about this? Because now this movie might become a poster child for the current discourse, even in today's context, that, oh, you see, America is so progressive and free that they are allowed to make anti-Christian movies in the USA, but a movie like that would never release in India today.
No, it's about making it your own. You see, also it's about using what tools you have at your disposal. If you don't have 10 movies like Kashmir Files or other movies that can expose the ratio, the stereotypes by the left, right? If you don't have 20 movies at your disposal, then you have other tools to use. Now, yes, clearly, it's not the first time that Bollywood did copy this movie and made Brahmins as vampires and all that.
Yeah.
So let's say they might. It won't be the first time that Bollywood copies. Matlab, it's not like if you watch Sinners, that you will, you will stop them from making a copy of Sinners, right? In that sense. Matlab, Bollywood mein you have movies where Amitabh Bachchan is cutting off his the hair on his head because he's a Brahmin, and cutting off his Janayu and all that. And you have so many anti-Hindu movies in Bollywood. Gems of Bollywood keeps exposing them. But Bollywood kept making those movies anyway. It's not like you watching a Hollywood movie will change that stuff, right? And it's still going on. Anurag Kashyap is still abusing Brahmins. So it's not, if I'm not wrong, he himself is a Brahmin. So whatever. My point is that because we are quite far behind in terms of cultural production ourselves, as in the indie wing, we have to kind of sometimes make do. I'm not saying if the viewers of this channel will watch, the movie will become 100 crore hit, right, in India. But I'm saying you guys might want to watch it, because whenever I have found it that whenever people talk about the inequality of Hinduism, I have found it useful, and especially Grok. I love Grok nowadays. On X, I just tag Grok and ask them to talk about the status of minorities in Western countries and stuff, racial minorities and stuff. So that narrative, before pointing a finger at us, we need to point fingers at you as well. That mentality needs to be more common among us. We're too busy defending our positions. And if you play defense, you never get to play offense. That's the thing. A good offense is the best defense. Yes. And you gotta keep attacking them left and right, whatever you get, and it should be stopping them all the time. Yeah.
And the people who will find this movie as an excuse, or movies like this as an excuse to adapt this sort of a movie or these kinds of movies, or even specifically this movie into the Indian context, and therefore end up making an anti-Hindu movie, they don't understand that they all the while else they will say that Hinduism is not a religion, it's a way of life. Therefore you cannot use it in a conversation as if it's the same as Christianity and Islam. But when making a movie against Hinduism, they will adapt completely movies that have been based on anti-Christianity. Now, and Christianity in theory doesn't have hierarchies and stuff. It's all about equality. Everyone's made in the image of God. And Hinduism, even in theory, need not have that absence of hierarchy and stuff.
God-based hierarchies, yeah.
Because Hinduism is a snapshot in time of a society. It's it's
Yes.
a way of life that has been now termed as ism. A few days back, I was discussing in a live stream that the equivalent of Hinduism is not Christianity, Islam, and stuff. The equivalent of Hinduism will be, let's say, American society today. American society
Hmm.
means a particular way of doing things, some social mores, some rituals, even if they're not associated with theology. This is another thing that
Yeah.
people don't understand. The rituals can come up at any situation. They don't have to be associated with theology. They were associated with theology at one point because that theology was the only thing ruling in the society, and a lot of them didn't even come out of religious morality. They were just simply convenient conventions of the day which got attached or tied together with theology. So let's say if American society, being in American society, or saving, or American culture means you have a barbecue on a Sunday on your porch, or have an American flag in front of your house and stuff. That's the American way of life. Let's say 500 years from now, Americans are at threat and they want to conserve this way of life. That would be called American societyism, or Americanism, or Americaism. That's the equivalent of
Exactly.
Hinduism.
What
So
if we're
an
like
entire,
Wakanda, right? Like, is this like
yeah.
is belonging to Wakanda Wakandism? I don't know. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
Wakanda should be celebrated for being Wakanda. It was an
Hmm.
advanced society or whatever. I mean, it's
Hmm.
fictional, but still.
Hmm.
And we, I guess, were the version of Wakanda in this part of the world.
Yes.
So again, that's the whole point. The whole problem of calling blaming some regional and some casteist practices by some groups of people as the entire defining characteristic of 100 crore people in the world. That's just dumb. That's a racial stereotype. Again, that's what I'm trying to say, that when you fighting against racial use the concepts of the left to your benefit. You don't have to always depend on right wing or even older arguments. You can always develop your own arguments based on the arguments of the left. It doesn't
Hmm.
just use everyone, trust no one. That's what I believe.
Mriganko Datto is saying we Bengalis are stereotyped as black magic karnewala. I don't think so. That's true. There was just one neta who said it, and everyone immediately picked it up as a joke. And today it's used as a joke only. No one uses it in a serious sense or uses it as a real gali in an angry situation and says that you black magic people. If no one says that, it's not really a stereotype. It's not
No,
even a
but is it
funny.
is it very wrong? Like, my point is, if you open a newspaper, okay. Now we in West Bengal try to think of ourselves as highly, liberal and very very progressive and stuff. But if you see the number of people who advertise Muslim, Christian, Hindu Babas all the time, and these are all those people who say Vashikaran in 5 minutes and all that, get the love of
Hmm.
your life in 10 minutes, that
Hmm.
kind of stuff, or
Hmm.
get rid of your enemies in 20 minutes. These kind of things are advertised heavily in West Bengal. So is it very
Hmm.
wrong to say that Bengal is, again, are we more like this than other people? I don't know. We have to,
Hmm.
I guess, if we objectively do some studies in different states and see where these kind of these weirdos are being approached by people more, perhaps we can have a more objective understanding of what it is. But it would be wrong to say that Bengalis are not believers of black magic and stuff like that, because
Hmm.
a large number of people, including people I know personally, go often to mazars and Peer Babas and tantrics and all that, and wear stones and everything,
Hmm.
the whole shebang.
Yeah.
So
And you
it's not.
wanted to recommend some other movies also for our viewers?
Oh yeah, Gilded Age season 3 is coming out. That's like my favorite TV series right now. Gilded Age is awesome. It's about, if you look at it, if you follow it closely, it's all about the elites of America who were a caste, who are behaving like, wherever you marry, wherever you have friends whom you can dine with, whom you can talk to, everything was controlled in that sense, right? And this is, I'm talking about 19th century America, right?
Hmm.
So in that sense, Gilded Age is one of my favorite series, and the season 3 is coming out in a few days. Uh, Apart from that, some movies, Conclave, I mentioned earlier, Conclave, again, the American conservatives hated it absolutely. Conclave was about this, how this dude gets, how they're electing the new pope. Of course, Conclave is extra secular in some ways, but I would still say like these kind of movies, become important tools for us to kind of understand how Eurocentrism needs to be attacked repeatedly. Because you see, um, when people talk about how backwards Indian society is, they're actually repeating points from the people like, people like Louis Dumo, who said that Indians have homo hierarchicus. They are homo hierarchicus because they think in terms of hierarchy. The whole world is a hierarchy for them. Whereas if you go to Christian nations in the West, you will see that they are highly egalitarian. Okay, equality is the watchword of these kind of countries in the West. So of course, all of us know that's hogwash, that's rubbish. But that's the problem. Like people in India are basically still repeating the left. The left in India is still repeating the points of the Western conservatives, in a sense, who actually tried to show India in a very bad light, and therefore, you have to keep kind of hitting back. So movies like Conclave, this one, Sinners, and all these movies, and we can perhaps compile a whole list of movies where the church is kind of being, questioned. Spotlight.
Spotlight. We said it
Spotlight
together.
was
See, our periods are synced.
so. Spotlight was there. Excellent movie, by the way, and many others. I mean, the Da Vinci Code and
Yeah.
all were all against the church, if you think about
Da Vinci
it. But
Code released with an adult certification in India, even without any nude scenes.
I remember that shops were attacked, which had the Da Vinci Code book. Shops were being attacked, and you see, it's this facade of liberalism. If we must be liberal, and these questions are being raised by people who often praise people like Mother Teresa and other kinds of Western thinkers, Western scholars, Western way of life. They uphold these. And I'm not against upholding a good thing by the West. We ourselves keep talking about some good stuff that has originated from the US and stuff. But of course, when you're talking about why India can't build a deep seek, or why India is still talking about caste and religion while the West is, I don't know, doing great stuff, or China and all these people are, Wakanda is doing great stuff or whatever, then you have to understand that you are basically parroting the same lines as the oppressors, the colonizers, who created such a discourse of caste that it's a fake identity. See, if you read closely what Dirks is saying and Bernard Cohn, his guru, is saying, and then you go deeper, there are many people like C.J. Fuller who have spoken about this. The colonial construction of caste is very real. Matlab, till the late 18th century, India and perhaps Japan. Matlab, if a British guy came to India and same British guy went to Japan, they would say, "Arey, ye to same here, very similar." Okay, but this kind of the obsession with caste everywhere, caste census, caste this, caste is race, what is caste exactly, all the time, this excessive obsession with caste, which is an identity that was frozen in the 19th century. Before that, it was much more fluid. That creation was that of the colonial and ethnographic state. So basically, it's like somebody cracked a bad joke on you and you took it very seriously and you said, "Ha, main hu." Matlab, somebody said you're dumb and you were like, "Yes, I'm dumb." And then you're writing one thesis after another, how you're calling everyone dumb in your whole family. Okay. So that's the whole problem, that we accepted that, and there has been no significant pushback. And even if there has been significant theoretical and academic pushback, that stuff is not exposed to Indians. Matlab, Rahul Gandhi and all keep talking about a lot of stuff that they hear from California liberals and all that. These same people, they will kind of deny absolutely the works of people like Dipankar Gupta and Andre Bete and all these thinkers, Nicholas Dirks and all. They will not talk about these things. Forget Rahul Gandhi, the left, which is highly educated all the time, greatest, most educated party. Wow, what was that? Okay. Anyway, so the left, which apparently reads the most in this world, okay, even those guys, they absolutely kind of they forget that their own scholars from very prestigious universities, they themselves have destroyed the narratives of the left over the years. And then these guys keep talking about Manuvad and this and that, and they know very well at some level that Manuvad is fake. There is nobody reads the Manusmriti, okay, and nobody reads Manusmriti before doing casteism. That's even weirder. But they will keep patenting these points, and there has been no pushback, no significant pushback yet on those lines. There has either been denial, which always falls flatter, like matlab tum deny karoge, then somebody brings out some crap from somewhere, somebody does casteism, and you're like, oh my god, it's all horrible, every Indian is casteist, that kind of thing. Or there has been no hit back, like people are like, oh, I'm ashamed of being Indian. But I mean, how many Japanese people say I'm ashamed of being Japanese because we had a caste system till 1868 or something, right? So that kind of
all the Japan scholars, the Japanese Japan scholars and the non-Japanese scholars, non-Japanese Japan scholars, who are they funded by usually?
they're funded by Japan Foundation, which is which is funded by the Japanese state.
And yeah, go ahead.
No, that's the thing. No, tell me.
Yeah, and people think that it randomly trickled down into their heads one fine morning that Japan is such a great society. China is a great country. Japan is a great country, and it had nothing to do with the fact that they fund their narrative all across the world, in academias all over the world. It's only USA who therefore has some haters and some backers depending on their pop culture versus academics. Their pop culture is now anti-USA. Their academia forever was anti-USA, anti-white and stuff. And at least the movies were pro-USA. Now even the movies are not really very pro-USA. Maybe we'll see a return of pro-USA movies soon. And therefore everyone thinks, yeah, USA is the worst of all. India is worse than US. The best countries are Japan and China. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they fund their own academics.
And South Korea.
Yeah, South Korea is great. Now, I want to ask you this interesting question from Gautam Varun. He's saying, don't you think sociology from classical liberalism perspective would give more honest research perspective than this Marxist perspective? This is the reason students become woke warriors.
Sociology was classical liberal. If you look at Durkheim, Weber and these guys, it was classical liberal in its orientation. It wasn't conservative per se ever. It was never Marxist also in that sense. Now, what happens is the Marxists kind of invade like everything else, they get it. They get in and kind of ruin stuff eventually. They have their own discourses and thesis and all that. Having said that, I do agree at some level that yes, classical liberal thought process will produce better research, but can we deny that somebody like Irfan Habib also occasionally produced good stuff, right? Like Marxists don't always produce rubbish, okay? In fact, sometimes Marxism is useful for Indian society in a weird way. You see, Marxism actually has the seeds of destruction of Dumo, in a sense. A person like Dumo will say that caste is an idea in your head. caste is an ideology which will be found in Brahmanical texts like Manusmriti and all that. Okay. Now, a guy like Irfan Habib or other Marxist theorists, or even Marx himself, because Marx himself believed and even wrote many articles saying that British आ जाएंगे तो caste खत्म हो जाएगा. मतलब British will come. See, again, he did not imagine back sitting in 1850s that matlab British will actually make caste a weirder thing. But Marx was reading the British archives, British reports, censuses and all, which were available at the time. And he figured matlab caste kuch ajeeb cheez hai India mein. And then he said, but whatever this caste is basically feudal, right? So if you are forced to sit with everyone else on the train, if you're forced to sit in a restaurant and eat with everybody else, then it will get destroyed. And honestly, that had some merit to it. Matlab Marxist thought is able to, because they are talking about the economic basis of your behavior at some level, they are actually a more useful ally sometimes to destroy the caste narrative. In a very roundabout way, of course. That's why...
Which at the same time handicaps people like Irfan Habib and Romila Thapar when they talk about, therefore, destruction of Hindu temples at the hands of Muslim kings. That's when they also bring in the economics interest question and screw everything up. As if nothing other than economics ever mattered for them. You have to apply the same lens to everyone. That's the problem.
Yes. Here's the thing that you have to use everyone and everything, where whatever is at your disposal, you got to use it. Like, right, there's no perfect theory and perfect school of thought or anything. But I'm saying even Marxists are useful sometimes. It's not, you see, because Weber believed in ideas sometimes more than Marxists. Okay. Although Weber is more nuanced, Weber actually also believed in economics and stuff. But Marxists like Althusser and all these people, they believed in the ultimate determinism of money, paisa. And overall, if you forget the religious ideology of certain religions and stuff, if you analyze Indian society before 1000 CE, then you will see that, it's quite well, you can actually deconstruct this caste ideology well into the feudal thing, and you will see that matlab, it is even comparable to Europe. Matlab, and then you can say that, it's actually somewhat economically determined, the whole caste thing and whatnot. And Andre Bete has actually shown that in his research. When he went to the village in Tanjore and all, he actually realized that when the economics were changing, when lower castes were becoming richer, they stopped paying attention to Brahmins, who were the dominant landowners of that village. So that proved that if you have money, you don't necessarily give a damn about caste. And you will notice that liberalization, that has absolutely changed the status of OBCs. Now the OBCs and SCs are the determinants of the whole, the political scenario of most states of India, except West Bengal, which was socialist. So where Brahmins still rule most of the positions. But that's the whole point, that paisa, capitalism and money actually does destroy old caste hierarchies. It creates new ones.
Yes.
But those are again challenged. If you keep circulating if money keeps circulating all the time, then eventually even those will be destroyed very fast. If they were created for 10-20 years, then again new castes will come. Then again new castes will come. But if you keep it stagnant like West Bengal, then for 50 years there is no caste challenging the Brahminical dominance in the CPIM.
I think that repeated disruptions is what is necessary, which happens in a place like USA. The topmost, richest, most elite, privileged families are topmost elite, most privileged forever, pretty much from the beginning of the country called USA, from 1776, or even I think even from earlier than that even. But it's the rest of the society, almost 80-90% of the rest of the society, there the hierarchies keep on changing repeatedly. And therefore, statusism, casteism is not that significant in USA as it is everywhere else in the world. Because I think because of the 12-15 year cycle of market crashes that come after every 12, 15 years. That's
Yes,
what
yes.
doesn't let anything solidify. Now, where I think Marxists get things wrong is that they therefore won't look beyond economics at all in any context. For example, even in the case of caste, it's not just economics. Otherwise, why call it caste? Even let's just call it class. Like some Indian right wingers use the word class for caste as an apology, and think that somehow makes their argument better. That it was not caste really, it was just class. But right after the stage, the primary stage of money and economics, everything else is status and metaphysical desires. That is what Marxists won't acknowledge, and they are also obsessed with equality, which is why they, in the end, they never end up making a society that gets rid of any hierarchy or even castes or statuses. That's the source of their feudalism, I think, that they won't look at anything other than economics and equality.
No, because they can't. You see, their whole thesis is based on haves and have-nots, right? Like, matlab, you see, for a dedicated Marxist, time is nothing but matlab, the stages of evolution are kind of science. And what creates this evolution thing? It's the economic conditions, right? When the economic conditions create more and more inequality, then finally you will have a proletarian revolution and overthrow whatever. So because it's like a religion, they have to believe in economics. Okay.
That's the problem.
It's
And
like
they have
you
one
to
God.
believe
That's
that everyone's a whatever, and then you have to save them or whatever, liberate them fully, whatever. So it's like an Abrahamic religion in that sense, Marxism.
yeah, of course.
And that
And you
makes
see,
them
it doesn't even work in theory, because the moment the proletariat revolution happens, the moment the proletariats become the kingmakers or the kings or the powerful, then what? They are no longer the proletariat. It's no longer a proletariat running things. The moment a proletariat becomes the person who runs things, he's no longer a proletariat. Someone else is the proletariat. Now what? Then
no,
then
precisely.
it's not going to work. The theory doesn't work for those people, because it's not like each and every proletariat is going to be running the country. Someone is going to be running the country. He's going to have a circle of influence, and then everyone else
Stalin
is
was
going
poor,
to,
and look what he did.
yeah,
Stalin was very poor. and,
yeah,
and look what he did when he came to power. Right.
yeah,
No, but I will let's say we take into account all that, but I will still say that you see what is called class in Europe. It's very funny. If you go from a Pierre Bourdieu's point of view, who analyzed class in France, the way in which he describes class, okay, that is very similar to caste status. Okay.
okay,
Matlab, at some level, I think we have to kind of stop this class is not caste kind of a argument. I guess that will be a new theoretical frontier for sociology. Weber, you have to understand that Weber wanted to separate caste from class or status from class, because Weber said कि मतलब सिर्फ पैसों से नहीं होता है. If you earn if you have 1 crore and I have 1 crore rupees, it doesn't mean we'll get the same kind of respect. Okay. That's
yeah,
what Weber was saying. And he's right. But at the same level, matlab, is there an objective class position in the whole world? Like, can there ever be a position in any society where if you give 10 people the same amount of money, they will have the same amount of power and respect? It doesn't work that way. So what is called class by Marxists and even Weber per se doesn't actually exist. That's my other, I guess that's something we'll have to prove eventually.
Gautam Varun is saying Marxism requires villains because they are heroes.
Yeah, every Abrahamic idea works like that.
Yeah. Now, how much do you think economics is important? Because the reason I'm prioritizing, I'm absolutely not ready to use class as a substitute for the word caste, is because how do you account for the status and cultural capital and stuff?
I think this is the problem. uh, of thinking in terms of binaries completely, that it's either class or caste, it's either class or status, that kind of thing. I think they are very intertwined. Matlab, that's where Weber, I think, cracked the code. He said, without material monopolies, you cannot sustain your high status. Matlab, that's somebody pointed out, I think AK Brahma pointed out in the comments that when the samurai lost their money, they became powerless. And that's what I'm talking about. Like when you lose money, let's say Brahmins, when they become poor, nobody gives a damn about them being Brahmins. That's the whole point. And in that sense, money is quite important. If not most important, is definitely very important. Having said that, that's where Bourdieu's thing comes into play, that he's talking about not just economic capital like the Marxists. He's talking about social capital, cultural capital, economic, symbolic capital, this kind of capital.
Yes.
So Bourdieu is also talking about like the way it's like a market, and let's say you have a lot of cultural and symbolic capital. Matlab, you have a great number of degrees and you have a great education, and maybe you're still poor, but people will respect that. Where it needs to be respected, people will respect it. Like Abdul Kalam, right? APJ Abdul Kalam. People respect him for being a highly educated and very spiritual person, right? It's not like he's like people also respect Ambani. The same set of people might respect Ambani for being very rich, but the positions of respect vary. Like it's more likely that if you are prioritizing money in your life, your idol will be somebody like Ambani, and if you're prioritizing intellectuality and spirituality in your life, then your idol will be somebody like Abdul Kalam, or I don't know, somebody like that, right? So it has to be somewhere. It depends. This is where Bourdieu calls fields. So fields means that not everyone is powerful everywhere. Okay. So the Galika Gundas who are powerful in Calcutta or in West Bengal, they won't have power if they go to Orissa. They are just another rich chap in Orissa, right? So just the next state. But PM Modi is powerful.
Which is kind of Dipankar Gupta's contention with caste hierarchies, that where is the hierarchy? Because every hierarchy seems lopsided in other states.
Exactly. It doesn't work because you might be rich. Objectively, you have 10 crore rupees, let's say, today. And that's a lot of money in West Bengal. I don't know about Maharashtra and all. But let's say you go to a state like Jharkhand, where 10 crores is still a big amount. But they won't know what you are and who you are. So they won't respect you, or they won't give you the same kind of status that you have in West Bengal. You might have low status in West Bengal. Or you may have high status in West Bengal, depending on your money and power and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay. But exactly, you won't have the symbolic capital in Jharkhand to go and say that, see, I'm a big boss. Okay. So in Jharkhand, somebody else is the big boss. Because you don't have symbolic and cultural capital depending on that will make you powerful in Jharkhand. But like I'm saying, like somebody like Prime Minister Modi, he can go to any part of this country and even some parts of the world and people will recognize him. Okay.
Yeah.
And he is not that rich, as far as I know. But it's not about him being rich. It's about him being him having symbolic capital. So that's what Bourdieu says. So Bourdieu is, in a sense, he's the perfect blend of Marx and Weber.
Yeah.
And you can use a Marxist concept of capital, but use it in a kind of Weberian sense, where you can think about other things than money as determining factors of your power.
Isn't it almost scary exactly how similar today's Indian society is in terms of the hierarchies and social realities as it was back in the day, back in the alleged racist or casteist days and stuff? Because even today we have hierarchies which will never go away from a society. Even today we have a section or caste or class of credentialed people who rule the roost, who are sort of beyond reproach, who have almost no accountability, and who behave pretty badly with other people. where there is in fact active bad behavior and stuff. For example, Gayatri Spivak saying that pronounce that guy's name perfectly, or else I won't take your question, or our IS babus, okay, treating people who come to them for help like dirt and like insects and stuff, regardless of what the caste of the IS babu is. Most of them are not even upper caste these days. So nothing really changes. The material reality keeps changing. Even then, hierarchies are going on in the exact same way almost. And in the case of Bengal, it's the same descendants, same family lineages. That's the only problem,
Exactly.
and that's the reason to call West Bengal the most caste society, because it has not evolved away from the families even.
No, in that sense, you see, till the state exists, the state will keep favoring, like you have kept saying in the previous streams, that whenever the state exists, the state is by default going to favor certain people based on birth and other kind of credentials. And whenever the state will favor that one or two groups or whoever they are, देखो, pehle, like I said, in earlier times when it was profitable to be a Brahmin, people claimed to be Brahmins. When it or Kshatriyas, and when now that it is profitable in terms of job market and politics also to claim to be backwards and oppressed, then people are claiming to be backwards and oppressed. It's as simple as the incentive structure. यहाँ पे भी देखो, economics ultimately works. Like it's based on money. What identity can give you money and power, that you identify with that identity. So before partition, much before partition, Bengali people talk about Bengali Muslims being Bengalis, right? Back then, Bengali identity was powerful, so people identified as Bengali. But when the British played some games and the Muslim elite started rising and playing some games, and people like Titu Mira and all said that, bhai, you guys are making a big mistake. You have to be more like Arabs to get respect.
Even
So
Sir
they
Syed
started
Ahmed
being-
Khan, the alleged reformer, Sir Syed Ahmed Khan clearly said that and made fun of Bengalis, and clearly demarcated Bengalis from Muslims. He never conjured or conflated the two, that Bengalis and Muslims are never the same things. Bengalis are
Exactly.
Bengalis, they are Hindu, and Muslims are Muslims, no matter what language they speak.
And that's how you will see that a lot of them, earlier the Arabic names weren't so widespread. Now it has become more widespread. All kinds of things have happened ever since. Like and now everyone wants to be a Turk or an Arab, right? And no self-respecting Muslim will say, I am actually a descendant of some Pachuram from this village. I am actually a descendant of some Mahmud Ghazni or somebody, or Khilji or somebody, right?
And Bangladeshis who have Indic names, if they have the letter that's supposed to be pronounced as J in the name, they will write it as Z, just to sound more Arabic.
Yes, exactly. And they all watch these shows like Etrugul Ghazi and all that, and they are very happy to see their ancestors in among the Turks, and they are very happy. They're like, they have third-hand, what can I say, pride in the acts of some Turks, and that's how this thing works. It's always like the economics is, see, basically it's always been about hiding the economics. Okay, if everything was running on money and paisa, and everyone knew that everything is running on money and paisa, then you don't, it's all open. It's like a science. It's like maths. Matlab A is equal to B is equal to C, some kind of thing. But because human beings are human beings, and most of the acts that we do are actually non-logical, according to a theorist called Pareto, an economist called Wilfredo Pareto. Pareto actually came up with these residues and derivations thing, ideas.
Okay.
Where the derivations were actually kind of justifications of non-logical actions. So most of us do non-logical actions, and most actions of most human beings are non-logical. But he said ki matlab non-logical to hai, that's great, but do we call it non-logical? Do we say, see, I am acting in this way because I don't have brains, I don't have logic? No, most people create a very kind of justification of most of their actions, which are non-logical. And that's how they kind of use it. And that's where Pareto comes in. Pareto talks about...
Like Pierre Bourdieu says, reason is never the initial thought. Reason is a ex post facto justification, and your steward, your lawyer, who comes in later on to justify what you did. You didn't start out with reason. You started out with metaphysical desires.
And in a way, if you see, most of us are always, we're not thinking in terms of money and power, like I will pretend to be Arab or I will pretend to be oppressed to get money and power. It's not like always an active thought process, but you see the elites of a society and how the elites are. Here's where again, so all I'm saying is, if you read 10 guys, 10 of these theorists, you'll understand the bits and pieces, and then you can put the puzzles together by yourself. So they see their elites in their society. So they see a bunch of people who are able to do SC/ST Act on others. They are able to see that, okay, because you are OBC or SC/ST, you are getting a ticket in the election. But if you're Brahmin, you are getting abused online. Then they, kind of think that, oh, now sucks to be a Brahmin, right? So I guess, I won't be a Brahmin, I'm oppressed. Brahmins can't say that, but others will. So they are just using that. And Brahmins themselves, they use that kind of gaslighting thing on others. They become commies, and they use that gaslighting thing to kind of inform others of, tell others that, see, you're a casteist, you're a casteist, you're a casteist. I'm a great commie, but you're a casteist. That kind of thing. Whereas in their own party, they won't put a scheduled caste person in a position of power. So exactly that's how it works. And again, this is where if you at least read René Girard, I think it makes so much sense of how society works.
Gautam Varun is asking, since you both believe in limited government in a libertarian sense, would you both say there should be no state-sponsored sociology and should be done by private institutions, or should government have monopoly? My opinion is that for now we need some state funding because we need to counter some people in a battle that we find ourselves in. But even better than that would be completely defunding it. Right now we have funded enemies for so long that we might require some funding for some years for the not enemies as well. But if not, at least if you stop funding the enemies, then maybe stop funding everyone. Fair enough. YouTube can take over.
Oh, I agree. I think for now the priority, and again, the Indian government's priorities are very nice. So forget all that. But the Indian government's priority should be to, at least for the next 2 decades or so, work on reversing the damage that has been done, and then maybe you defund. Having said that, this is not to support my own career in any way. All I'm saying is it will help most people to kind of have a better opinion of themselves through an official social science discourse. If you don't
which one?
If you can fund great academics in a private sense through private organizations, then that is great. But typically, Hindu organizations lack that vision. That's what I've seen.
Yeah. Now, to get into a bit of conspiracy theory, Irfan Habib writes that phenomenal paper on caste in 1997. Dipankar Gupta writes a phenomenal... What the fuck is going on outside my house? Dipankar Gupta writes that phenomenal book on caste in the year 2000, where he says there are no hierarchies. What was going on? Was Congress finally planning to move away from caste politics, and then the rise of BJP made them become Dumontian again? Is that possible?
You see, actually, I've had this conversation with you and a few others. There was genuinely, I think, an interest by the Congress because they never thought that the BJP would come to power. Okay? I think they genuinely thought that BJP chodo, even when there were coalition governments, it was basically offshoots of Congress, right?
Yeah.
But the Congress was still calling the shots, even with the exception of, let's say, if you forget the Atal Bihari Vajpayee episode, before the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, I think the Congress thought that we are there for the next 100 years or something. And I guess that happens to an older elite. But if you're in power for 60, 70 years and you're still ruling over a country that's backwards, then people will start asking questions. People will say, Bhai, tumne kya kiya tha 60 years? We still ask. In fact, most people will still ask Rahul Gandhi what his family has done for the country, right? When he says India is backwards, first question will come in, Bhai, tere family ne kya kiya? So, in that sense, I would say that uh, the Congress was, I think, making an effort to make India look better for its own needs. I'm not saying for some great humanitarian need, okay, but to avoid these questions ultimately. Ki matlab, you're the party in power, and what the hell are you doing? Okay.
Yeah, they would have to answer at some point that, okay, we've been in power for 60 years now, and we are going on funding ourselves research on caste, and research that says that Hindu society is to be blamed for caste.
And
So
if
how
you
about
think
now
about
we don't,
Exactly.
and fund some academics who will say otherwise, and then Irfan Habib and Dipankar Gupta pop up in the scene, who are by no means right-wing academics.
No. I would even go to the extent of saying Congress was even going to justify some dominant caste stuff, because Congress has always been a zamindari party. Okay, Congress was always a dominant caste zamindari type party. It has always been so. It has still not changed. In Haryana and all, it's still a Jat party. In other parts of the country, Lingayat and all, it keeps playing that in the south. Forget West Bengal. West Bengal mein to the Brahmins migrated to CPIM. But if you forget, if you keep in mind Congress composition, the Congress party in different states, it's usually a dominant caste party. So I think the idea was ki matlab, when people start raising questions about caste and class and all that stuff, they can say, "Arey bhai, caste class बोल के कुछ है ही नहीं in our community." Or it's been made by the British, or it's all economics, or it's not that religious. Okay, I think that was the plan. And then what happens is liberalization happens. Lots of things change. BJP comes to power suddenly. Then you see that priorities completely change. Like the humanities stuff that happens after that age, like Dipankar Gupta, Irfan Habib, all these people are close to retirement or are older. Their next generation is talking about repeatedly about Hindutva. Okay. And or they are doing like numerous studies on caste, and these studies are all about how oppressed Dalits are. Okay. How oppressed OBCs and Dalits are, or tribals are. So you see the focus changed, because now they are in attack mode again. Now the idea is to break Hindu unity. So yeah, I guess. But
So you see,
but
go
then
on.
again, we should use that research, like because that was genuine research. That was actually good research.
Caste is therefore probably being anti-casteist or pretending to be anti-casteism is the biggest virtue signal in independent India, right? It's the biggest, very biggest Brahmastra of all virtue signals, and therefore anyone anytime feels some problems in their career, they pretend to become anti-casteism.
Yep.
And which is why Congress didn't stick to their guns. BJP also is very, very anti-casteism on the face of it, and they seem to be doing nice things, but in the wrong ways, and at least executing failed Congress policies and stuff. But the vision is the same. The view towards India is the same, pretty much. So you see, that's the way to remain in power. That's the way to come across as a good, nice person.
No, even Dirks's research, now that you pointed out, Dirks's original research was in the 1980s. Bernard Cohn, like 1970s, Dirks 1980s, late 80s and all. Matlab 90s se pehle, pre-liberalization, I think there was a whole plan to revamp the caste thing. Okay. And the remnants of that are like Dipankar Gupta, Dirks, and these kind of people who later on...
Yeah, remember year 2000. That's when they have finally decided that yes, we are about to. If Atal Bihari Vajpayee doesn't come to power, we are absolutely heading in a different direction. But then he comes to power, and they have to play their anti-casteism
And
shenanigans.
if you think about it, before VP Singh introduced, redid the Mandal Commission thing, I think there was an attempt to, like I said, there was an attempt to justify the caste thing. मतलब Congress के ऊपर सवाल आने ही वाले थे, like, what the hell have you guys done? And then they were like, okay, actually, we're not that bad, some kind of a thing. So I think it all worked till see, this is the power of capitalism. In a sense, it put a wrecking ball through their plans. Okay.
Yeah.
And destroyed everything in that sense. Whatever their plans were, not everything, but whatever their plans were. And maybe it was for a worse thing. Maybe Congress was, going to turn the country into a kind of miniature Pakistan or Bangladesh. In that sense, like, by saying that caste has no religious basis, they might have said ki then reservations will be on economics, and then if they do economics, then Pattharbaz and all these people might be included in reservations. So in a weird way, by preserving the reservations and then OBC status, you're actually keeping 50% of the jobs reserved for Hindus who are, well, whether they identify as Hindu is a different question. But in a way, you're doing that. Now, of course, that means the general category people are going to get screwed. And this channel does not support that, as far as I know. But having said that, perhaps it would have been even worse if it was on economic basis and they arbitrarily justified it for other communities which are poorer. Because you remember Manmohan Singh said minorities have the first right of rights
Resources.
over resources.
Now, DJ, I'll take your question if you elaborate a little. I don't fully understand what the question means. Is Ambedkarian dictatorship finally in play and stuff? I explain what do you mean by Ambedkarian dictatorship, okay? Because I have a notion of what Ambedkarian dictatorship might be, but let me first understand what exactly you mean, and then I'll answer. Then I'll be able to answer.
Would Dr. Ambedkar really want a law like SC/ST Act? Like, I have my doubts, honestly. SC/ST Act, the way it is framed right now, would Dr. Ambedkar want such an act? I don't know.
I think he would have.
It's a genuine question.
Because he was pretty pissed off with every upper
He
caste.
was pissed off, but he never said ki make reservations permanent, number one. Number two, Ambedkar never wanted OBC reservations. Okay. That extra 27% was introduced later. Number three is Dr. Ambedkar never wanted he wanted actually Dalits to own land. He actually said that owning land and doing capitalism is one way out for us. Okay. So he actually had some very liberal, progressive ideas. So I don't know, an act that without any proof can put anyone in jail for a while, that seems kind of not so much in Ambedkar's ballpark.
Okay. Ninor is saying SC/ST Act was by VP Singh, and he's asking, did you hear Nishikant Dube's statements on judiciary? No, I didn't. And he's saying, but VP Singh.
Nishikant Dube said that the CGI would be responsible for civil wars in India or something like that.
Who is Nishikant Dube?
Nishikant Dube is a BJP MP.
Okay. Is he a minister or just an MP?
Just an MP, as far as I know.
Okay. Now, let me just ponder over it a little. Would Ambedkar have wanted, and is that Ambedkarite dictatorship? Yeah, this dictatorship is here to stay, though. Abhay is asking, don't you think, a very important question, I think. Don't you think that sociology influences government policy? How can it be completely independent from state interference or funding then?
Sociology, see, the problem is sociology does influence a huge part of your lives without you understanding it. Matlab, if you see what they did with the caste census in the British era and all that, that was all sociology and anthropology and stuff. Okay. They build whole ass policies, reservations, all that stuff is based on that. But having said that, if sociology was continuing to inform government policies, like we just spoke about how people like Deepankar Gupta and all, and Andre Bete and Irfan Habib and all changed their stance. If it continued that way, and these guys said that bhai theek hai, sab theek tha, but ultimately Dirks and all sab milke bole the, no, there's no religious basis for caste and all, maybe that would have been a good thing. But actually the government stopped listening to sociologists for a while now. Okay, so that's another problem. And see, actually no subject or study in itself is ever useful. A government or a politician will use it for whatever he likes for his benefits. Okay, they will use now Suraj Yengre's research to understand India. Somebody like Rahul Gandhi might. Okay, but he will not read Deepankar Gupta, who has done actual work on caste.
Yeah.
Or they won't take Andre Bete seriously. But I would say Andre Bete and Deepankar Gupta are way, way more serious researchers than people like Yengre will ever be. But because Yengre writes a book called Caste Matters, and people who teach Rahul Gandhi what to say and do, they like these kind of books. So they will now think of Yengre as this great sage who knows about India, and India is the worst country in the world where everyone's oppressed and stuff. So yeah.
And wait, I'll get back to this later. Academic Man, do you have knowledge about psychology at decent level? If you do, if so, do you think it's also affected by Marxism?
I won't be very surprised. Marxists have their hooks in everything. I don't think.
Why else would Jordan Peterson have to quit his tenured position at University of Toronto? Psychology today is completely Marxist.
Psychology and psychiatry, right? Like I think he's also a clinical psychologist.
Psychologist.
Right? So,
his license has been taken away. He has been asked to take a re-education, and he got so annoyed at the university. His work was being hampered for so many years, in so many ways, that he quit his tenured position.
Yeah, exactly. So psychology maybe have. I think there was this movie called Revenge of the Body Snatchers or something. Okay. I'll tell you. It was a movie on how aliens were replacing, a lot of normal people. Okay. And they were then suddenly one day, you wake up and there was a movie called Body Snatchers. And Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Yes. So this is a classic movie. And here you will see ki matlab normal people like your family, friends, everyone. Suddenly people are behaving in a very weird manner. Then you realize that they've been taken over by aliens. So that's how Marxists take over. Any movement like that is, how they take over slowly. One fine morning you wake up and find everyone is doing Mera Yasu Yasu, or find everyone is a Marxist, that kind of thing. So they take over slowly and they do it. And the problem is that if you don't have a social justice thing or a LTC and all that stuff, in that sense, LTSC or some kind of understanding of how your aims will be achieved politically, if you don't think like that, then you can't counter these people, or you don't have a counter movement to reconvert others and convert more people to think in your way, that kind of thing. So
there's a new theory going around these days that it's sort of a claim that any institution that is not declaredly overtly right-wing will become left-wing. If you pretend to be neutral and stuff, sooner or later you'll become left-wing.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong because you see, they use democracy. They use all kinds of ways. So, matlab unions, right? Teachers' unions. There was a time when they used to be right-wing people in unions as well. There used to be liberals in unions, but the leftists, when they got in, they used their kind of power, like I said, the invasion of the body snatchers. And they kind of start turning people based on that, and they slowly captured the whole union, and one day they will vote a president, and then never again will any other president be from any other thought process. Okay, that's how I've seen them capture whole ass teachers unions and stuff.
Right. Texas is on the way to becoming that. California, Nevada, all used to be beautifully run Republican states. Then they became Democrat. The Democrat population increased, and the moment
Texas,
they
but
turned Democrat, they are.
Austin, I can understand Austin going that way, but I don't think the
Yeah.
rest of Texas is going that way anytime soon.
It is going that way gradually, and lots of gigantic mega mosques and stuff are also coming up in Austin, and the Democrats of the country are shifting base to Austin, and when the population is high enough, they'll shift to other places in Texas as well, and that's when Texas will also flip. Nina is saying it's worth the look. Nishikant Dubey is plus 3 to 4 minutes. By the way, you can search Nishikant Dubey on judiciary. Okay, I searched Nishikant Dubey. I found the one that AcademicMan was talking about. Then I'll look up the clip. Okay. Gautam Varun is asking, don't you think both that we both think if Savarkar didn't use the word Hindutva or talk of Hindu unity, he would have been a good nationalist? Yes.
Of course.
By the Jan, yeah, go on.
No, that goes without saying. Like I think I think it's a good point either way. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Janki Bakle's book on Savarkar, I recently finished it, completed it. It is so awesome. All her conclusions are pointless. In the end, the biggest, most drastic criticism she makes is that Savarkar might have been a stooge for the British even without knowing. British might have let him out at a very significant time period just to use his work against Muslims. But even that, in the end, in the conclusion chapter, she says, perhaps unwittingly. So, what is her biggest criticism here?
I have a, I've always thought about this.
And the research rigor, the places which are don't have anything to do with conclusions and stuff, those parts are absolutely insane. I'm telling people, I have become the biggest Savarkar fan because of this book and the movie, of course, to a large extent. But this book only, I didn't need to read Vikram Sampath Savarkar as of yet. I haven't read it as of yet. I will read it someday. But the Bakle book has absolutely solidified Savarkar's image in my head.
Well, I and this is a point that I've thought about a lot. Okay, and this has been leveled against Hindutva activists from different parties and walks of life. That Hindutva activists were working for the British. Hindutva activists were against Indian nationalism, which was represented by Congress. I've always wondered whether what we even achieved by kicking the British out in that sense, what did the Congress really achieve? Okay. If you're talking about a different kind of elites ruling over us, of course, but I think that Hindus were definitely better off under the British than they were under Congress. Okay, that's my belief. Again, not everyone might agree, but I don't see why fighting for freedom is such a big deal in that sense. Like, I don't know. Like, what were we even fighting for? Like, for the right for Nehru to rule. That's what we fought for. In that sense, I don't necessarily support this thing that anyone who fought for freedom against the British, including people include in the Muslim League and Moplas and all these people, they were all great people. Or Tipu Sultan fought the British, so he's a nice guy. My point is that, or for example, because Shiraz-ud-Dawla was a nice guy, why? Because he was against the British. Okay. I don't see how, if we have to have an actual objective scale of oppression. Who was more oppressive? The Congress, under whom temples were put permanently under government control and people were told that Hinduism is caste and general category people were vilified and people were lynched after Gandhi's death and all. Was that better? Or what the Mughal period and period under Shiraz-ud-Dawla better? Or was it that it was better under the British rule? We have to have more objective studies, comparative analyses of the histories under these three regimes to find out which is the worst.
This brings us to the sort of the ever ongoing debate in academia, and mainly Western academia, where the pro-West versus Marxist social science people have this debate that whether colonialism was a net good for the societies they went in or not. And we have to ask ourselves two questions: whether it was a net positive, the arrival of the British, and them leaving, was that a net positive? At that point, could we have done anything else? Let's say, in terms of Bengal specifically, I don't think there's any question. We could not have suffered another day of Sirajuddaullah's rule, and British rule was absolutely better.
Yeah.
Now, the counter argument might be, but well, you should have waited for the Maratha Hindutva Swaraj, which fell to pieces anyway at the hands of the Peshwas.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
was colonialism a net positive then?
Considering what came after that,
Wait.
I
Sorry.
think
Let me make it more comparative. We have to compare the British with the previous
colonizers. Yeah.
who came here for some wars, assimilated. We don't even know who are the descendants of the Kushanas and stuff. And the Muslims who came here didn't assimilate, but also stayed back. There was some syncretism going on here and there between the lower classes of Muslims.
But then you had an occasional Aurangzeb or Shiraj and somebody, and they would all
right.
whatever.
And the British came, did atrocities. Did they do any good things? And was that good thing that necessary? Could anyone else have done those good things? And was the colonialism worth having the good things? Or do you even agree that there were good things at all brought with the British?
No, I mean, of course, the British were all three regimes. If I consider Congress, Islamic regime, and British regime, all three regimes were horrific in some way or the other. Let's not doubt that Jallianwala Bagh didn't happened, and all that stuff. Of course, if you look at it, all three regimes destroyed monuments. Actually, the British didn't that much. So the Mughals did, and certainly we lost control of our temples under Congress. British actually kept our temples, kind of preserved many temples and texts and all that. So yeah, I mean, now if you think of what the after effects of this kind of colonization was, if I forget the Risley and the caste thing, which I won't, that was a big blow to Indian mentality. But even then, even after the colonial caste thing by the British, the people who came out of British Raj in their education system and all, they were tigers and lions. Okay, they were all nationalists to the core, and not all of them were nationalists to the core, but definitely a large section of them were certainly, like people like Aurobindo, Rishi Aurobindo, Savarkar, Netaji, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. All these people came out of the British education system. But whereas
no one came out of the Kushana education system or the Muslim education system.
No, I mean, when the Kushanas and all came, we were like America. We were the strongest nation in the world. So when they came, they became the local, matlab, jo bhi hai, Rajput, jo bhi hai, mar gaye. But when the Muslims came, even then you have a few, you have the Marathas coming up, you have Hindutva Swaraj and all these ideas coming up. So even in a way, the Muslim regime also did not destroy the idea of being a Hindu. Okay, or being a nationalist. It did not destroy it. It may have slaughtered a lot of people, which is very horrible, but it did not destroy the basic idea of what you were supposed to be. Okay. And the British, they actually kind of brought up a lot of texts and temples and all that, and they thought the original Orientalists who came in the 16th and 17th century, right? Especially the 17th and 18th centuries, they were fascinated by Hindu culture. They read the Vedas and Gita and Mahabharata and Ramayana and all these texts, and they translated them, and they felt, these are advanced philosophical texts. They read them. Then they became like, after 1857, they lost their marbles and they said, okay, let's destroy this community. But till before 1857, the British Raj, while exploitative, was not destroying your very idea of pride and nationalism. Okay, you would still be a proud Hindu under the British. And we have many proud Hindus who actually were products of this British education, who studied English and then studied Sanskrit, Bengali, Hindi, Marathi, whatever, and they They read a range of texts and they decided, bhai, being a Hindu is not a bad idea. Okay. Whereas when your Congress comes to power, it actually completely erodes your identity. It says that you should not be a Hindu. And we're agreeing also. Okay. And I think that that's why the Congress was one of the worst things that could have happened to us in the last 1,000 years. While we have a majority country, the rights are nowhere with the majority, and the rights are in the name of minority rights. They have overstuffed some groups with too many rights and powers, like the Waqf Act that now is creating so many problems. So, in a sense, I don't think that the damage that the Congress did was even close to what the British and Mughals did. Even I would say Mughals to that extent. Okay. Ramon
Well,
Rai
Congress
existed
killed less people, maybe.
Yeah, but if you kill less, if you keep a population alive, which is basically a hostage, or which is basically a Stockholm syndrome wala population, then in a sense you have killed them off. You have committed cultural genocide in that sense. Congress did cultural genocide. So in name we are a Hindu nation. We have temples now. Again, like, but people don't care if temples are being destroyed or the Hindu identity is being challenged systematically. Nobody cares because being a Hindu is a crime now because of Congress, right? Exactly. The I think Boishalidhi has given a very a very succinct comment on this, and I think that's exactly how they did it. This
Now,
was in a way
yeah, go on.
more dangerous than a guy like Raja Rammohn Roy, who see Raja Rammohn Roy has many problems and issues. Okay, but at some level, even he had to say that the Vedas are the most superior text and all that. Okay, right now you have people who, given a chance, will burn the Vedas at a drop of a hat. That kind of thing. You have Brahmins who will burn Hindu texts. The first thing, okay, that Congress and left have achieved. For example, Somnath Chatterjee's father was a Hindu Mahasabha leader, and Somnath Chatterjee became a card-carrying communist and a great communist leader who would not be caught dead going to a temple, right? Or who will not be caught dead saying that he's a Hindu. So that look at the kind of leaders that were being produced by each regime, okay, organically. Then you will understand who has damaged the most. And if Congress was born out of British rule, of course, Congress was a British agent. Congress leaders were British agents. That I'm not contesting. The British had to actively destroy this seed of nationalism that was growing after 1857. So they introduced Congress and then CPIM and then all these things, they converted people. But my point is this, that in that sense, they had to make an active commitment to destroying Hindus or Hindu nationalism. And that should have been cured after 1947. So if the British did create Congress, we as a community should have told the Congress ki bhai theek hai, British chale gaya na. So now you become Hindu or whatever. We have just faced partition. We've just had a very traumatic partition where crores of people were displaced and killed. So then you should now change. But we never held them accountable. And taking that chance, Congress actually, like Boishalidhi said, that Congress destroyed actively our identity. Till the 1940s, you had proper Hindu leaders. After 1950s, the number of Hindu leaders have just disappeared. The educated, nice, like what I'm talking about, the gentleman Hindu leaders like Raj Bihari Bose, Savarkar, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, Aurobindo, even Netaji Subhash was not anti-Hindu like they keep trying to show, Bangla Pokho and all. Netaji Subhash was a very religious Hindu, in fact. He not have agreed with Savarkar's ideology completely. Let's not forget that Netaji Subhash had gone to Raj Bihari Bose, who was the president of Hindu Mahasabha in Japan. Okay, and Raj Bihari Bose was the one who gave him the mantle of the INA. So Hindu Mahasabha, and then you see communists like Bhagat Singh, socialists actually like Bhagat Singh, who are avenging the death of Lala Lajpat Rai, because Lala Lajpat Rai got killed during the protests against soldiers. Now, Lala Lajpat Rai was a Hindu Mahasabha leader. So Bhagat Singh and all these people, they were not opposed to the idea of being Hindu, right? And even wrote essays about how Hindi is great. And that's the whole point. That even till the 1950s, you have leaders who are not afraid to say I am Hindu in public. But after the 40s and 50s, you're like, people are scared to even say the word Hindu. So how is that being achieved?
Yeah, we as a society, the premise you use that we as a society should have done this. That phrase does not apply to Hindu society. We have to remember that. There's no we and there's no we as a society, definitely. But I'd like to point out to you that Kanchan Gupta came on Kushal Mehra's podcast a few days back and pointed out something very interesting, that only when we talk about reforms among Indian Muslims, commies, journalists, academics start talking about bringing the society along with the legislation. But when Nehru made the laws for Hindus and stuff, was the society brought along? It was all impositions only, which the Hindus, being, I guess, lazy enough, they just accepted it, or they went on going on. Violations of those laws also went on happening, which is what empowered many police officers and bureaucrats to punish poor Hindus in an unjust way, because all of a sudden the laws have changed, their way of life has changed. Their way of life has not changed, but the law has changed. Hindus found themselves in such a situation, and there was no society being brought along and stuff. Now, let me put you in a spot of bother, and after that we will check out another interesting comment from Gautam, and as well as check out the video that Ninar has been suggesting. So, knowing what you know now, if I send you back to India in 1925, 100 years back in a time machine, you are face to face with some moderate radicals like Sri Aurobindo, maybe Sri Aurobindo himself, and Srinivas Banerjee, who said that people who say that there must be freedom from the British and stuff, not only freedom must not be gained, not only must independence not be had, people who talk about independence must be sent to an asylum. So you meet these three kinds of people: one who don't want the British to go, one who want a dominion status, one who want the British to absolutely go. You meet these three in a coffee shop. What do you tell them? Who is right? How do you convince them?
I see. It's problematic to be a to do presentism at that time. Perhaps if I was young at that time and a young guy, maybe I would have gone with somebody like Sri Aurobindo. Okay, but having said that, we are 70 years after independence, right? And that's the whole point. Like right now, it seems like a lot of decisions were not right, or a lot of things. Of course, who would want a foreign power to rule over them, right? Who would want the Churchillian famines to kill people? Nobody would want.
Wait, I have a problem with the "who would want" phrase, because even that's presentism. Because in 1925, many people were foreigners already.
Yes. True.
If the Mughals were not foreigners, why are the Britishers only foreigners?
That's there, and not just that. And like you said, people like Srinivas Banerjee and all these people, they were, they were thinking that, bhai, haan, theek hai, British hai to acha hai, right? Or dominion status mil gaya to theek hai, something like that. So, perhaps they were right, and that's what I'm arguing. Like, it's a presentist argument to take these things and evaluate them in the light of information we have now. Perhaps the vision that people like Rishi Aurobindo and many others, including Savarkar and all, had was, if Hindus have their own regime in their own hand, or if Indians have their own regime, then of course the colonizing force that these people use to do things like Jallianwala Bagh massacre and all, that stuff won't happen. Now, of course, they didn't, sitting there, they won't have foreseen a Mori Jhapi or something like that, or different kinds of pogroms that Congress.
Yeah, how is Jallianwala Bagh anything different from all the massacres done by Trinamool, CPM, or Congress?
Exactly my point. Like, because, and that's where again the Bangla Pakko thing, pisses me off at some level. because they're like, okay, these parties that have killed hundreds and thousands of Bengalis, they're awesome. Okay, but the BJP, which has not even come to power, is the worst thing that ever happened to West Bengal. So, matlab, these are stupid. Or if we do it, it's okay. So these guys were busy trying to prove, when the Abhaya case happened, they were busy trying to prove that the guy who did it allegedly was a Bihari. Okay. As if, because a Bihari did it, it's a worse thing. But if a Bengali did it, we have to keep quiet about it. This attitude is, horrific to God knows what level. And my other point is that, again, Morijhapi and Jallianwala Bagh are very similar in my view, right? But what's even worse is at least Jallianwala Bagh against some liberals, some people like Rabindranath Thakur and all protested, and like there was huge outrage, and Sardar Udham and all these people, they did what they did. But nobody spoke up about Morijhapi. Nobody did. Now that Deepal Dar and all write a book, Ross Malik has been sent to the gallows of academia essentially. Okay. Yeah. Ross Malik is completely, his career is destroyed because he writes about Morijhapi. No mainstream journal publishes his work.
Yeah.
So this is even worse than colonization. At least back then, when Savarkar wrote a book, he had to smuggle it or whatever, and somehow it was known that if I write a book against the British Empire, then I have to smuggle it in some way to people, right? Now it has become such that
Ross Malik's papers are also smuggled from Gen.
Thank God for the internet that you can at least read his works. You can read his works for free. But that's the whole point. Without the internet, when he was writing these things, these were totally covered up. And this is at a time under regimes of people who claim to be pro lower, for the lower caste identity, for human rights and all that, and totally they completely ignored a complete massacre like Morijhapi. So I guess, I don't know.
I think we got all the cons of colonialism without any of the pros of colonialism.
Yeah, exactly. If under colonial regime, Calcutta University was at par with Oxford or Cambridge, and now Calcutta University is a dump, then, what the hell? At least, back in the time, Calcutta University, even the leftists and right-wing people, nationalists, whatever it produced, Calcutta University, they could be at par with any international level, scholars, right? Forget scholarship. Look at the football team, yaar. Matlab, India's football team was so great before the British left, and look at the crap that happened after the British left. Look at sports, look at any field that we have, everything deteriorated almost. And the only reason IT sector came up recently was because
we excelled in cricket though. Cricket we are better.
Cricket is played by 8 countries. I don't know why people make such a big deal out of the game. Like, it's not even a real game. Okay, a fat guy.
Your voice broke up.
Yeah, I'm saying cricket is not even a real game. It's like 8 or 10 countries play it seriously. Number one. Number two is, usme World Cup kaise, there should be a regional para cup or something. Number two is, a fat guy can play cricket. Okay, it doesn't make sense. A fat guy can't play football or hockey. So precisely every field that we did excel in, all of those fields were screwed, including business and manufacturing and industry and everything that made us awesome. Everything was destroyed. Academics and everything. Anyway.
देश में धार्मिक युद्ध भड़काने के लिए केवल और केवल सुप्रीम कोर्ट जिम्मेदार है. Show me the face will show you the law. सुप्रीम कोर्ट अपनी सीमा से बाहर जा रहा है. सुप्रीम कोर्ट की सीमा यह है कि भारत का संविधान जिस कानून को बनाया, उस कानून की उसको व्याख्या करनी है, और यदि वो व्याख्या नहीं कर सकती है और सब कुछ के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाना है, इस संसद का कोई मतलब नहीं है. इस देश का कानून भारत का पार्लियामेंट बनाता है. उस पार्लियामेंट को आप डिक्टेट करेंगे।
एक ट्वीट को लेकर के बहुत ज्यादा हेडलाइंस बन रही हैं। आपने ट्वीट करते हुए लिखा है कि अगर सुप्रीम कोर्ट ही अगर कोर्ट से ही सारे कानून बनेंगे तो कहीं ना कहीं पार्लियामेंट के दरवाजे बंद कर देने चाहिए।
बंद हो जाने चाहिए ना। मैं आपको बताऊं कि एक आर्टिकल 377 था जिसमें होमोसेक्सुअलिटी जो है एक बड़ा अपराध। अभी ट्रम्प एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन आया है, उसने क्या कहा है? उसने कहा है कि इस दुनिया में दो ही सेक्स है, या तो मेल है या तो फीमेल है। ट्रांसजेंडर की उसने बात नहीं कही, होमोसेक्सुअलिटी की बात नहीं कही। पूरी क्रिश्चियन कम्युनिटी हो, पूरी हिंदू कम्युनिटी हो, पूरी मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी हो, पूरी बुद्ध हो, जैन हो, सिख हो, सभी ये मानते हैं कि होमोसेक्सुअलिटी एक अपराध है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने वन फाइन मॉर्निंग कहा कि नहीं, ये केस हम एबॉलिश करते हैं, ये आर्टिकल एबॉलिश करते हैं। हमने आईटी एक्ट बनाया। आईटी एक्ट में सबसे ज्यादा दुखी कौन है? महिलाएं हैं, महिलाओं के पौर नाते हैं, बच्चे हैं, बच्चे के पौर नाते हैं, उनकी सेक्सुअलिटी के बारे में जो है हंगामा होता है। एक दिन सुप्रीम कोर्ट खड़ा होता है, वो कहता है 66 से खत्म कर दिया हमने, आईटी एक्ट खत्म कर दिया। अभी आप समझिए, मैंने आर्टिकल 141 का बहुत बड़ा जो है अध्ययन किया है। आर्टिकल 141 कहता है कि हम जो कानून बनाते हैं, हम जो जजमेंट देते हैं, वो लोअर कोर्ट से लेकर सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक लागू है। लोअर कोर्ट से लेकर सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक लागू है, लेकिन कानून बनाने वाला जो है, आर्टिकल 368 क्या कहता है? आर्टिकल 368 कहता है कि इस देश के संविधान को, पार्लियामेंट को सभी कानून बनाने का अधिकार है। कानून की व्याख्या करने का अधिकार सुप्रीम कोर्ट है। वो कह रहा है कि 3 महीने में जो है राष्ट्रपति बता दें कि क्या करना है, 3 महीने में गवर्नर बता दें कि क्या करना है। और उसके बाद आज जो है ये देश राम, कृष्ण, सीता, राधा, द्वादश ज्योतिर्लिंग से लेकर क्या बन सकती पीठ का है। सनातन की परंपरा है, लाखों साल की परंपरा है। आप जब राम मंदिर का विषय होता है तो आप राम मंदिर में कहते हो कि कागज दिखाओ, कागज दिखाओ। कृष्ण जन्मभूमि का मामला आएगा मथुरा में तो कहोगे कागज दिखाओ। आप जब शिव की बात होगी, ज्ञानवापी मस्जिद की बात आएगी, कागज दिखाओ। और आज केवल आप मुगलों के आने के बाद जो मस्जिद बने हैं उसके लिए कहते हैं कि आप कागज कहां से दिखाओ। इस देश में धार्मिक युद्ध भड़काने के लिए केवल और केवल सुप्रीम कोर्ट जिम्मेदार है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट का एकमात्र उद्देश्य है, शो मी द फेस विल शो यू द लॉ। सुप्रीम कोर्ट अपनी सीमा से बाहर जा रहा है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट की सीमा यह है
I think we've had a pretty good idea of
व्याख्या नहीं कर सकती है और सब कुछ के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाना है। इस संसद का कोई मतलब नहीं है, विधानसभा का कोई मतलब नहीं, उसको बंद कर देना। जो अपॉइंटिंग अथॉरिटी है उसको आप निर्देश कैसे दे सकते हैं? भारत के नजीर की एक जजमेंट है, 1942 की प्रिवी काउंसिल की जजमेंट है, उसमें यह कहा गया कि
So you see, I'm going to take Gautam's question on this topic kind of, but the point of criticism was very significant, but he screwed it up with his misinformed details about US society and US politics.
Get some bombs
A.K. Brahma is saying Savarkar wasn't. Yeah. A.K. Brahma is saying Savarkar wasn't an Orthodox Hindu, neither was Vivekananda or Vidyasagar. I'm beginning to think between the ultra-Orthodox and the left lies a golden ratio of Hindutva, agnostic, traditionalist. A.K. Brahma, first of all, that's the same as in the case of Israel as well, right? The Orthodox Jews are against the survival of the Jewish state or Israel because they believe agar Bhagwan ko bachana hota to wo bacha lete. The very fact that Israel exists even after so many people were killed, that means you are going against God's will. You know this, right? So yes, that's the same with our Orthodox Hindus as well. And Orthodox Hindus were happy to vote for any other party. Hindutva has nothing to do with Hindu religiosity. Hindutva definitely has nothing to do with Hindu orthodoxies. The day this becomes clear, many other discourses will flow and things will get easier. And acharas, rituals are not Sanatan. The way of looking at the world, that philosophy is Sanatan. Now,
no, I think and I've had many arguments with.
Did you want to add something?
Yes, I wanted to say that I've had many arguments with trads on this. That and I don't deny that certainly some of the most dedicated Hindutva fighters. I'm not going to say people who set the narrative. I'm not going to talk about those people. I'm saying the people on the ground who are going to do the Babri Masjid thing and all that, right? They certainly have both together. Like their Hindutva consciousness is almost tied to their religiosity. Okay. But again, for the leadership class and many others, including many upper castes as well, it's actually two very different things. So, like for maybe perhaps the lower rungs of society, these two are similar. But for the more upwards you go, God becomes an ATM, and your ideas are what needs to get you power. So for the higher classes and upper castes and all who rule the roost. So, for example, the Motuas in West Bengal, they are the most staunch Hindus I have seen, and they vote for BJP. So for them, religiosity and BJP and Hindutva are the same. Okay. And they are also very staunch, and they are also the biggest fighters for resistance in Bengal. In undivided Bengal, might I add.
A lot of them are staunchly anti-Brahmin and therefore hate Hinduism. A lot of them are anti-Brahmin. Even then, they like Hinduism and are even pro-BJP. But they are staunchly
No,
anti-Brahmin.
they might abuse the Brahmin. Listen, this is the funny thing. They might abuse Brahmin. See, majority of Mutuas are, their worldview is Hindu. Okay. They will say that Guru Chand Thakur and Harichat Thakur are avatars of Vishnu, okay, and Shiva. They will say that. They just don't like the Brahmins. Okay, it's as simple as that. For them, Brahmin is a caste who has taken a lot of benefits and not given much. So again, we might go into the argument of whether that is a right and wrong perception or whatnot. But the point I'm trying to make is that for a Motua Namashudra who is fighting for his survival, even now in West Bengal also. For them, that whole idea of BJP and Hindutva and Sangh and Hindutva, that is similar to their idea of religion, because to protect your religion, you must take up arms. That's what they think. Okay. Now they don't think so deeply, perhaps. And see, can you blame them? Like, they are living hand to mouth, most of them. Okay. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have resources. They are the worst victims of partition I've seen. Okay. And I've seen a lot of types of victims of partition. So having said that, they are the most staunch Hindus I have seen as well. But I have also seen other staunch Hindus who are very staunch. Matlab, they will keep upvas on 5 days, do all kind. They will, like Durga Puja, to aise niyam se karenge. Not every bong drinks and has mutton on Durga Puja. Many bongs actually follow every rule. Marriage mein sometimes bongs are so traditional about their marriage rituals. Ei niyam, oi niyam, that niyam, this niyam. Okay, they will think of 10 niyams, but then they go and vote for TMC or CPIM. I have seen that myself. So it's mainly this upper strata that has a difference that says that those who are in power, who are descendants of Tughlaq and Khilji and all, they are fine. We don't mind because they keep us happy, so we are happy. But BJP is bad for now. Why? BJP is led by Banias and this and that. BJP is led by a chaiwala. I can't tolerate it. But the day BJP comes, I can guarantee you these people will be the first ones to go to BJP's party office and register. Okay. But these are the people for whom the political identity is one of benefits. Okay. And these are the Hindus who are, again, it's all about material benefits for them. So the reason they pray to the gods is so that they get more money. The reason they vote for TMC and CPIM is because they need more money. They want more money. So the privileged classes question is how to maintain your privilege. But the people who have nothing, just their gods and the clothes on their back, for them, I guess Hindu and Hindutva, they are the same. But for these people, religion and party or ideology, both are all for earning more money and privilege in society. If tomorrow being a Hindu earns you money, they will be the biggest Hindus and Hindutvavadis or whatever. So totally depends on, I think, incentive structures. Right.
Yeah, and you see, therefore, Hindutva as a concept is a socio-political concept. It was straight out of the category of social science. It's not a theology category thing.
Exactly.
People don't get this at all.
It's not like an Abrahamic religion where the political and the religion are tied together. It's not that.
Yes.
That's why Savarkar was not in any sense a staunch Hindu per se. A practicing Hindu in the staunchest sense, he wasn't.
Yeah. Wait, we have some great comments now. I'll take Gautam's this question, then we'll move on to the more current affairs topics. Gautam is asking, don't you think that the left who say RSS didn't fight for freedom, usually it comes from guys who can't read decent English papers? I think academic left acknowledge they participated for freedom.
I think we should stop defending at some level. I'm sick and tired of this. If they didn't fight for freedom, they didn't fight for freedom. Freedom मिलके क्या हुआ? Rahul Gandhi को prime minister बनाएंगे. So what did freedom get me? Fool wale chacha
No,
as
but
prime minister.
that's not the discourse. The discourse is that yes, even RSS and BJP claim to be nationalists, and even then they didn't fight for the freedom. Then how can you call yourself a
this is
nationalist?
the problem. If we're talking about academic discourse and writing a book on how RSS was nationalist and all, yeah, I obviously you got to do that. If RSS had brains, they would have funded 10 projects by now on that. They don't. Forget that. But my point is, if you're just going to argue with a commie, then say, yeah, I mean, what did we get out of the freedom struggle? Like, I respect RSS for not even participating in it, if at all. So I think the British were better rulers. So I would say that. Now, if you have to write a book, go ahead. But trust me on one thing. If it's about a street fight of ideas, you got punches. Okay. It's not about taking a punch and then saying that, okay, the punch didn't really hit me that hard, or okay, I'm going to recover and come back from this. It's not that. It's got to be about hitting back all the time. Offense is the best defense.
Now, Rishabh Agarwal is asking, the main question is BJP going to come to power in West Bengal in 2026?
Yeah, don't say is BJP going to come. So, okay, yeah. I have a feeling yes, but if I say yes and then it doesn't, and then you guys start abusing me, I have nothing to say. So, I think yes.
I think it's BJP's election to lose, but even now things are still not all that. It's not an united front behind Shubhendu. That's the way it has to be in Bengal.
My logic is completely different. You don't need a united front. You don't need cadres. You don't need anything. You need Narendra Modi to think that I want Bengal. That's all you need. And this is not some master stroke.
Might be thinking it in his mind, and even then not resulting into united support behind Shubhendu.
No. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The only thing standing between Mamta's regime ending and BJP starting is Narendra Modi's will. I am telling you. It did not happen till 2025. That much I can tell you. Okay. And that is not because Narendra Modi is an all-powerful god and his decision will be manifested. No. It is simply because the TMC is not a cadre-based party. It is not an ideology-based party. It is simply a group of people benefiting out of a system. Okay. System ko जिस दिन खत्म करोगे TMC खत्म हो जाएगा. But the BJP has kept the system alive for its own benefits. And can we blame the BJP? I don't know. They are also in alliance with PDP in Kashmir. So I don't know. Okay. And can we also blame the BJP all the time when Bengalis have been voting for CPIM and TMC and Hindus in other parts of the country have been voting for Congress and Samajwadi Party and all these parties, and then they claim that why isn't BJP Hindu enough? Okay, so it's a bit problematic in my opinion.
But in the end, I think it's BJP's election to lose now. Jyotiraditya is asking, do most Bengalis today respect Ma Durga anymore? The puja has become more of a modern art, political, social agenda festival than a religious festival. That's only for the post-90s generation, not for the ones born before 1990. What do you think?
I agree with you largely. I think there are still going to be a section of people who take it very seriously. But the more vocal and I would say NACA sections, they are more about this show off and atheism and atheist name. Honestly, you know what pisses me off? The CPIM stalls in front of every Durga Puja. Okay, and these stalls are all abusing the thing that's going on inside, and nobody ever questions it. Nobody.
And they have BJP, such awesome books as well.
No, I don't blame the CPIM. They are anti-Hindu and they are showing it on your face. But what hurts me is the BJP doesn't have the brains to put up a stall beside it and call it Morijjapi victims stall. Okay, I would have done that. If I had money, BJP has a ton of money, crores of rupees in electoral bonds, and I would have made it won't even cost 1 crore. Trust me. Put small stalls saying reality of CPIM, reality of Morijjapi right beside the
Yeah.
CPIM stall and
Yeah.
kept it.
Yeah.
उतना भी कर लो तो चलेगा. They have no brains. Honestly, it's very annoying at times.
Since the Indian right wing is always late to the party and complaining about the party, therefore they don't understand that the game, the way to fight the game is going on evolving. The rules have not completely changed, but they keep evolving. At least they keep rhyming with past situations. So today they will have some good books like Dr. Maulay Patla's book, maybe even in a right wing or Hindutva the bookstall, even if it is in front of the Durga Puja and stuff. But I don't know if they prioritize, they have it as a priority in their mind, even that they are supposed to reach to the other side. They will make a stall just for right wing people, so it will be fully saffron clad. There will be a picture of a Bharat Mata, and there will be books, good books like Dr. Maulay Patla's, and most books like there was no casteism before the British came, or it was a great thing that was going on before the British came. All of a sudden, British came. All of a sudden, Mughals came, and that's when every problem started, etc. All that stuff. But to attract attention, to gather the attention, to if you are being a reactionary, react goddamn at least nicely. So reality of CPM, reality of Morijjapi, those should be written on flexes and stuff, but they won't do that. They will think that doesn't go with the Hindu vibe, Hindu aesthetics of the stall, etc. Hindu symbology, the obsession with symbology, hence the obsession with naming everything Hindu and Sanatan, hence the end result of never ever conversing with the other side, never changing really minds directly. Whatever mind changing has happened in India has happened indirectly, without, in spite of their failed efforts, not because of their efforts.
The thing is, who wins a street fight? The one who keeps throwing punches without thinking. I'm not talking about a trained fighter, matlab jujitsu jo janta hai versus a random guy on the street. Okay, I'm talking about basically the panchayat election guys. Okay, as you know quite well. So two panchayat election guys, who wins? The guy who keeps hitting all the time. Okay, that's how they win. By the time the other guy even reacts or comes to his senses, he's punched 10 times more. And that's how the narrative war should be. And this is where the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and Ravan Ka plane and all these people fail. That's how conservatives also fail. It's Let's face one fact: without Donald Trump, the Republican Party would have been washed out.
And that's not the conservative movement, really. It's a sort of a different thing. It's a Hindutva movement. Yeah.
Donald Trump is not at all a conservative.
Conservatism has already lost.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they have girlfriends and wives and these kind of things. They are not in any way similar to a guy like Matt Walsh or even Matt Walsh, look at it, he attacks, right? He's so good at attacking the propaganda head on of the left. So dekho, it's always going to be the guy who attacks wins, and Trump won because he kept attacking. Even when Narendra Modi had to win, he kept attacking everyone. Manmohan Singh ko attack kiya everyone. Now he's talking about being a great statesman, but Narendra Modi sometimes shifts gears. But I'm saying only Narendra Modi or Donald Trump won't solve the issue. Daily Wire is doing it on the side. What are you doing? Right?
Yeah, if they make a Daily Wire, they will call it Sanatan Wire, Hindu Wire or something, and then it will be effective.
Exactly.
Lokavya is saying, ask Academic Man whether the Vedic religion will survive or not in the Bharat, referring to the end of Hinduism podcast. That seems to be his favorite podcast. That's the only podcast he ever talks about. In all of our live streams for the last 2 years, he has been talking about this podcast.
We're not fortune tellers, honestly. I can perhaps with some degree of certainty say that some part of the world will always have these kind of thoughts. Vedic religion type religion, or maybe Vedic religion itself will survive in some form or the other. Whether it will survive in the present geography of India, that is, I don't know.
Here to learn is saying, wanna say anything about the Rambam accusations as well as the BJ Mool theory existing simultaneously?
No, one thing I can say, Rambam do not exist. BJ Mool definitely existed till 2024. BJ Mool definitely existed and worked. Rambam never exists because BAM is totally working for TMC. Rather, you should say Communist Trinamool Party. That's the new party. Okay. Because the CPIM has totally donated all its organs, vital organs, and whole body to TMC, hook, line, and sinker. And the CPIM in West Bengal is evolving into a Muslim party completely. It will become a Muslim party in the coming 5 years or so. Completely. Most of its leader will be Muslim. Most of its Brahmin leaders that we keep insulting and abusing on this channel are going to be kicked out slowly and surely. But yet,
And,
despite having Selim as the leader, a bunch of Hindu idiots will keep voting for CPIM. Okay, that's the reality. So,
Yeah. Today, CPIM had its brigade, and they didn't really talk about Haragobindo Das, the idol maker, and his son, who were
yes, they will.
hacked to death. But when it was the time for Anis Khan, that's when they made a lot of hullabaloo, and they had that Insaf Yatra and stuff. Insaf was a Bengali word for those few days. Gautam Varun is asking, do Bengalis acknowledge that BJP is the main opposition party, or TMC, or they think of CPIM, etc.?
Vast majority of Bengalis think of BJP as the main opposition. But I'll tell you how. There's a channel called Beatkel Bangali, okay? He's a comedian. He's a decent comedian in Bengali. So recently took out a video called When You Don't Support a Party, and he kept saying BJP and Trinamool, okay? He never even once mentioned CPIM. So, matlab, even when a comedian and all, they don't even mention the CPIM, then remember that the CPIM is not really in, in contention for power in any sense.
Now, the next comment is from the rapper Old Boy in Town. I think the reason why BJP is not taking West Bengal seriously is because they want the Bengalis to see what they have brought upon themselves. They want us to understand why they need BJP and not vice versa.
I agree with you partially till 2025 mid. I agree with you mostly, but I'm also saying that West Bengal has 42 Lok Sabha seats, so it's not a joke for 2029. And remember what happened in 2024. So that's all I will say.
Anidash is asking, what's AcademicMan's thoughts on BJP's recent video indicating UCC is on its way?
Matlab, if it took them like 10 years, great, good for us.
It's still not, doesn't apply to scheduled tribes, I guess, right?
Bhai, scheduled tribe chhod do, normal kar lo na. Matlab, polygamy is still allowed in this country. How the hell is that like still allowed?
No, it's still going to be allowed for scheduled tribes. UCC is not going to apply to them.
Like, forget scheduled tribes. That's what I'm saying. Like, polygamy is allowed for 20-25% of this country. So how
it's going to be now allowed for 9. It's still going to be allowed for 9% of the country.
वो होने दो ना. Problem क्या है?
Yeah, it's still soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yeah, at some level, see, it's actually, we've been backstabbed so many times by so many groups of people that at this point we're going to take anything you get, basically. So,
Yeah.
a UCC, whatever, even excluding STs, I would still accept it. I mean, I am nobody to accept it, but I'd still think of it as a win at this point.
Yeah, it's still going to keep loopholes that are going to fuck us in the future, because anytime you don't apply a law equally on everybody in the country, that's when you are leaving room for something to get fucked up in the future. Laws always must be equal for everyone, and that's something India has never done and has always gone on shooting itself on the foot as a result of that.
True. Now, I don't disagree with you on this. All I'm saying is it's so sad that, I mean, we're a country where every community has its own laws. So that's weird. We should just get rid of these things. But anyway, not going to happen anytime soon, as you can see.
Do you think BJP really has brains to fund sociology that works for Indian interests? They'll only fund so-called Vedic maths and push Bhagwan, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yes, that's a big concern. that I have, that even if BJP does fund it, will they maybe they'll say that do sociological studies on how Article 370 helped and all that. I'm not totally opposed to that, but like I said, if it's about one person's achievements or one government's achievements or some fake ideology regarding some, or not fake ideology, like some ideas related to the past that most people laugh at, that kind of thing, then it's somewhat a problem. Like, and honestly, like I said, these people aren't in the mood to attack. I don't know why, but they aren't in the mood to attack. And by attack, I mean ideologically, through narratives. That aspect is so underdeveloped. If Americans can study India, why can't Indians study America? Right? Why can't Indians study Europe? It's not even that difficult.
Yeah, we have been kind of we have been left behind in history academia. We have kind of caught up to it. Now it's time to take up sociology, anthropology as well. I've noticed this repeatedly. A sociologist with no knowledge of history is an absolute mindfuck to talk to. Completely an absolute dumb fuck of a person. And a historian with no knowledge of sociology is similar. They have to go hand in hand. Otherwise, you're not solving any problems. You might have come up with cool sound bites and stuff for now, but even you are not going to cause any solutions for the country.
This is how Dumontian idea works. You see, when you don't study that Brahmins got land grants, how many of us knew that Brahmins got land grants? I didn't know. Till a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, I didn't know. Okay, I didn't know. But I was always wondering why Brahmin leke itna problem kyun hai. Then I realized the Brahmins were a feudal elite. So that's how it worked. But if you're not learning history, how will you understand that how the past was full of people who were just very similar to us in a way. Learning history just proves, and I mean, people pretend that back then people were backwards. People have always been. Even now, people are backwards. People are not ultra modern and awesome and logical right now. Okay, I think history, a good reading of history and historical sociology and all prove, and comparative history prove that people are very similar always. They have always gone for money, sex, power, all these things. Okay, most people, and even when the people didn't go for that, they were ascetics who kind of used that thing as a brand value to reject other people. So it's always going to be, you're always going to relate to people in the past if you read good history, critical history, and that's where that's the problem. We think of the past as a different country.
Yeah, even the some sannyasis and purohits who have rejected sex for showing austerity and stuff often conveniently suggest that the woman must have sex with me, your wife must have sex with me, and then she'll breed babies. It's because you are important, that's why it's not happening. So people use the ritual backdoor to justify anything.
Most of Mahabharata was Brahmins telling Kshatriyas that, bro, you're a loser. Basically, if you read the Mahabharata, it's all about how Kshatriyas fuck up and Brahmins then come to save the day and shit. Anyway.
Okay, then we'll end today's live stream with this question, which DJ did not elaborate on. I asked you to elaborate. What do you mean by Ambedkar dictatorship? But I'll ask you then. What do you think the question means, and then answer it.
I don't know. Is he talking about SC/ST Act and stuff? Then yes, it's a real thing and it's been used a lot, right? And I mean, what can I say? It has, like I said, does the SC/ST Act and stuff have a lot to do with Ambedkar's core philosophy? That is a question.
None of them have read Pakistan or Partition of India.
No, not just that. Even Dr. Ambedkar in his parliament speeches, we must read these. And I think that if we read, and what my understanding of the little that I read of Ambedkar, actually I still read more than most people. But even then, I have a belief that he was more of a classical liberal than an actual radical. Of course, there were some ideas in him that were radical, which of course, if he was pissed off so he became more and more angry. But even deep down inside, he was more of a classical liberal. That's what I believe. No, the fact that we can't go against any of his opinion. अरे उसका opinion क्या है किसको मालूम है? That's the whole point. How many have even read Ambedkar? And how many have read fully? तो छोड़ दो. मतलब his top 10 books who has read. That's the biggest problem.
Now, okay, I have one question to end the live stream today with. The fact that we were right now talking about and criticizing this idea of this phenomenon of some sociologists having no knowledge of history and some historians having no knowledge of
Can I just make
sociology.
one small interjection? Old boy in the top is saying latest avatar of Buddha. I know what you're referring to. My point is, Dr. Ambedkar wrote a book called Buddha versus Marx. It is the best takedown of Marxism I have seen in a long time. Okay. Buddha versus Marx. I think you should read it on your channel. It's available for free online anywhere. It's a brilliant takedown of Marxism. Okay. So that's what I'm saying.
Take this question, answer this in yes or no.
Yes, there are caste studies on caste in Sri Lanka, which is a Buddhist country. You can read these. Thailand, Cambodia, utna nahi malum, but Sri Lanka, definitely there were caste hierarchies. There was an anthropologist who did work on Sri Lanka. I keep forgetting. A.M. Hokart, by the way, A.M. Hokart's idea of caste came while he was posted in Sri Lanka. And A.M. Hokart is the guru of whom? A.M. Hokart is the guru of Declan Quigley.
Oh, yeah.
He never came to India per se. A.M. Hokart studied India, and he was posted in Sri Lanka as the anthropological commission, of Sri Lanka, and he said that bhai ye caste jo system hai ye har desh mein hai. He said that. And he was posted in Sri Lanka. Ceylon.
I see.
So yes.
That is spanning with this question. It seems to be important to him. Yeah, go on.
Japan was a Buddhist country, so Japan के caste system के बारे में बहुत कुछ लिखा है. So
will PM Modi become president in 2027, and will there be mid-elections?
I honestly can't say.
I have something to respond to Aftudni. He or she is saying Ambedkarite discourse will never be mainstream in India. और कितना mainstream होगा? How is it not mainstream already?
Yeah,
it's the mainest of mainstreams.
What is perceived of as Ambedkarism is now pretty mainstream. Whether it's actually what he wrote is not ever going to be mainstream, because what he actually wrote is so dangerous. It's even dangerous for BJP or any other political party in India to consider.
No, puja of Ambedkar is Ambedkarism, hence the ism. Critical thinking has nothing to do with isms.
But I think honestly speaking, if Ambedkar were alive to see that his murtis are being done puja with, I think he would have lost his, he would have gone very angry.
So what I want to end the live stream is the question that we were discussing, that some sociologists have no knowledge of history, some historians have no knowledge of sociology. We are looking for a situation where there is more cross-discipline research work and stuff. Was there a time in history, or at least in Indian academic history, when this was the case, that people had broad knowledge of all these subjects? And when did it become so isolated?
No, so there is a book on historical sociology in India. So very funnily enough, actually, there were some people, Veena Das and all, who did study some historical things. There were people like Ghure. Now, Ghure was kind of like an indirect student of Risley. Okay. Now, Ghure was nationalist, but he was also kind of into Risley and stuff. Like, he couldn't deny the racial thing. Okay. Matlab, he thought that caste has a racial basis. But not the way Risley thought it would. Risley was like, naak ka measurement lo, or if your nose is pointed, then you're a Brahmin. If your nose is flat, you're a Dalit. That kind of
That was PC Mohalanobish's research work as well. He was busy building skulls and stuff.
These people
and then
were
decided that bureaucrats must run the country.
Yeah, anthropometry was a legit subject back in the day, and these people were products of that system. So,
right.
Having said that, proper historical sociology very few people have done, because historians, if you read the kind of works that historians have done, it is very very different from the kind of work sociologists have done. And it's still not even close. Like historical sociology in India is very underdeveloped. Very underdeveloped.
I see.
Historians still
what-
use sociology. Like somebody like Dirks and all, you would find like Dirks is actually an anthropologist who became a historian later, Bernard Cohn and all. But
Right.
even then, it's modern sociology. मतलब इंडिया में ancient इंडिया को लेके जो sociological analysis करना है, that very few people have done after Max Weber. Sociology में,
Right.
history में तो लोग करते ही रहते हैं. History people are-
Anthropology में it's happening.
yeah, anthropology and sociology में बहुत कम लोग किए.
Hmm.
Anyway, चलो.
Wait, I had to ask just one other thing. Wait, did I forget? Yeah, I forgot it. I'll ask some. It
Okay.
was not that important. It had something to do with Nicholas Dirks only. Okay. Thank you for joining, guys. Thank you, Academic Man, for the second time coming to our podcast. See you guys soon. Good night, Academic Man.
যদি সবাই ফিরে যায় ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায় যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায় তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি আলো না ধরে ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে তবে বজ্জা নলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো রে